Hello, grade twos. We are going to figure out where we are in the world. We are going to be traveling through Africa, and after visiting our 7 countries, we need to come back home. So we need to get a feel of our space and our orientation. So today, you are going to be making a me on the map square book, just to make sure you know where you are and where your teacher can find you. Right. When we think of where we are in the world, we are going to take a big look at the world. And you've seen this picture before. Okay. Now, the world is all of the countries and the people who live in it. And in our world, we have got 7 continents. So we need to have a look at our whole world, and it's a very big space, and from far away it looks rather small. But if I have to zoom in now because I am going to Africa, I'm only going to focus on this continent. So I'm going to come in a little bit smaller, and now I can see the continent of Africa. And a continent is a large mass of land. Africa is the 2nd largest continent. Now, Africa is made out of 54 countries. So again, I'm going to zoom in. And where do we live? We live down here at the bottom. We live in South Africa. So, a country is a nation that is ruled by a government. Whoopsie. And if you have a look at our country, that is the shape of our country. So we're getting closer to where we are. But the country is rather big, so we've got to zoom in even further. And the country is made up of different provinces. And we live in the province of Gauteng. So a province is a smaller demarcated area so that we can differentiate where we are in our country. Gauteng's got a rather funny shape, but that is our province of Gauteng. But if you look at it, it's still rather big. So I'm going to zoom in even closer, probably to around over here, and then I get my city. And my city is the city of Johannesburg. Let's put this over here. And a city is a large town. So that is the outline of the Joburg city. And somewhere in the city, this is where we live. It's a pretty big area, but it's still big. I need to zoom in even closer to see in what suburb I live. We don't live in the city with all the high-rise buildings. We live in a residential area. So it's an area with lots of houses, and we call that a suburb. Now, Mrs. van Staden lives in the suburb of Parktown North. And I know that all of you boys live in different suburbs. So Mrs. van Staden's particular suburb is Parktown North. And if you look closely, it's got lots of houses and gardens and cars, and it's a lovely, safe area. And if I have to zoom even further into my suburb and find my house, you know what you're going to find? You're going to find a picture of me. There's me, the teacher, Mrs. van Staden. Here we go, I've got a label. Me, Mrs. van Staden. Right, so you are going to be making a booklet today. Now, Mrs. van Staden has included it in your Google Classroom. Not all of you have got printers, so if you don't have a printer, it's not a train smash. I will show you how to work around it. But basically, your square booklet is going to be looking like this, where you're going to start with the world, then you're going to go to the continent, then you go to the country, then you're going to go to the province, and then the city, and then the suburb, and then you. Now, I've already finished making mine, and when it's done, it's going to look something like this. So, we start out from the world. So, this is the world, and I've got a lovely picture of the world. Remember, we are zooming in. I only want to find our continent, which is Africa. So I'm going to flip down, and then I get my continent, which is Africa. That's great, but it's still rather big. I need to zoom in a little bit smaller to get to South Africa. That's going to be my next page. My country, South Africa. Still rather big. I know over here is the province of Gauteng. So let's go and take a closer look at what Gauteng looks like. Remember this funny shape? Gauteng. Still rather big. I know somewhere on here is the city of Johannesburg. So let's zoom in and let's go and find the city of Johannesburg. Now the city is made up of lots of high-rise buildings and lots of people. I want to go and live in a quiet place where there are lots of houses and parks. So I'm going to zoom in closer and I am going to get to my suburb. Remember, Mrs. van Staden's suburb is Parktown North. Then I really want to find me just to see that I exist. I'm going to zoom in even further into my house. And there we go. I am going to find me, Mrs. van Staden. So for those of you who've got a printer at home, you're going to print out all these templates. I've got my suburb, I've got my city, and they are the right size. I've also included templates for your country and the continent and the world. You can see Mrs. van Staden was rather lazy. She didn't do any colouring in, but it would be nice to see your colouring in. So you need to cut out your template. Now, remember, those boys who don't have a printer at home, what you are going to do is you're just going to take some blank white paper, just like this, and you can see on Google Classroom exactly where you are going with this. So the first bottom of the page, you will label the world. Like that. And then you can just draw a sketch, a real sketch of the world. You always start with Africa, and then you can do the countries around it. Then you're going to take another piece of paper. You're going to put it slightly above it, above the title. So it's like this, you see? And then you're going to cut off the space at the top, and over here you will write my continent, Africa. Okay? Again, you'll either stick down or draw the continent of Africa. Then you get another piece of paper. We are moving from the continent to the country. Again, you take it up like that so that it's above there. You go and cut those pieces off and you write my country, South Africa, and so on and so on. Then right at the end, you can either glue or staple it from the top. And then you need to have some lovely pictures and you need to share this with your teacher. All right, so this is Me on the Map Square booklet that's going to help you find where you are in the world, where you belong, so that when we're going traveling through Africa, we don't get lost and we can find our way home.